to Securing America with me, Frank Gaffney, the program that's a kind of owner's manual for protecting the country we love against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to God's glory and that of his kingdom. President Biden announced yesterday a new initiative, ostensibly in response to surging violent crime rates across the country. Its centerpiece is a set of new restrictions on so called ghost guns, a made up descriptor for homemade weapons. The object, though, is called a gun grab. This is problematic on two scores in particular. First, interfering with legal gun ownership is a hardy perennial of the left, which understands the freedom to bear arms enshrined in our Second Amendment to be the ultimate check on its ambitions to fundamentally transform America. Second, Joe Biden has acknowledged that he's going to use regulatory action because he cannot secure the congressional majorities needed to grab guns legally. Using unconstitutional means to impose unconstitutional restraints on Americans' freedom only compounds the unacceptability of the president's gambit. We must reject this latest lurch towards tyranny or expect more of it soon. For example, the Biden administration has similarly decided to rewrite the law concerning who adjudicates illegal aliens' applications for asylum. It has simply issued a new rule establishing that instead of using exclusively immigration judges to consider and process such applications as the law requires, Department of Homeland Security asylum officers will henceforth be making such decisions as well. As such officers have reportedly been recruited from the ranks of refugee activists, the result will not be simply reductions in the estimated 600,000 plus backlog in such applications, but a far greater number of approvals. The timing for such a change could hardly be worse. Thanks to the Biden administration's decision to end the use of Title 42 as a basis for denying entry into the United States on public health grounds, we are told there will shortly be a further vast surge in illegal immigration. Reports that asylum seekers will be processed more quickly, to say nothing of more favorably, can only intensify the global impulse to come here. Since the purpose of the Biden team's open border policies is transparently to alter our electoral demographics, such unconstitutional lawmaking means trouble. In short order, we will have here considerably more people without any attachment to this country. Worse yet, in due course, if not very quickly, they will be voting for people who enabled their entry and then rewarded them with free stuff for making the trip. We're going to discuss the dire implications of Joe Biden's immigration policies with the deputy director of one of their most important opponents, Numbers USA, an absolutely terrific grassroots organization. His name is Chris Chmielenski, and we are delighted to have him with us. Chris, welcome to Securing America, sir.
Thanks for having me.
I'm anxious to get your thoughts on what I just described, Chris, namely the prospect that the Biden team is actually going to simply make up the law rather than go through the constitutionally mandated process of having the Congress create it. Is that
Right, right.
what's in fact happening here with this asylum administration
It really
business?
is. So essentially, what's at play here is you've got people who are crossing the border and they're apprehended by border patrol officers, and the law allows them to be put into expedited removal proceedings as long as they're apprehended with within a certain period of time of them crossing and within a certain distance of them crossing the border. But many of these folks are are interested in claiming asylum. The problem is the expedited removal process doesn't allow that to happen. There's no chances when you are apprehended and put into expedited removal proceedings. The law just simply says Border Patrol can return you back to your home country. That's it. There's no chance to get a judge involved, talk to a lawyer, anything like that. What the Biden administration is saying here is, no, we're going to allow those people to claim asylum, even if they're in expedited removal proceedings. And they're going to take it one step further. The law requires them to go before a judge to argue whether or not they qualify for asylum. What the Biden administration is going to do is take hand-picked bureaucrats from Washington, D.C., that are working for the USCIS, and allow them to make these asylum decisions, essentially cutting the immigration judge out of the process. Now, their argument is this is going to vastly speed up the process and it's going to clear up the backlog that we have. We've got 700,000 people waiting to get before an immigration judge. It takes 3 or 4 years before somebody who actually gets a notice to appear before a judge to actually appear. And they say this is going to be great. We're going to cut all this out of the process. These asylum decisions are going to be made instantly by these Washington, D.C. bureaucrats. But again, these folks lean towards open borders. So we know that they're going to probably approve about 98% of these cases.
Well, that's what I wanted to really hone in on. Is that report accurate that these are folks who have been recruited from organizations, bring with them a proclivity to say, y'all come,
Right,
the more the
right.
merrier, and therefore they'll speed it up all right, but that simply means moving them expeditiously into the country on a permanent basis.
Right. I mean, those are the groups that are pushing for this policy change, and not only that, but many of them hold positions, powerful positions within the Biden administration. So that's where I look back at the person who was in charge of former President Obama's domestic policy consul, Cecilia Munoz. This is exactly where she came from. She came from La Raza, went into the Obama White House, then she went to Obama's think tank. So these are people that are right in the middle of this mix, and not only are they pushing for this policy, but they're the ones who are now in a position where they can actually make these decisions.
Yeah.
So
Let me
you
ask you a
have.
quick question. Am I correct that La Raza actually has the view that California and other parts of the United States belong to Mexico and ought to be returned to it? I mean,
They
this is
they
kind of an
have had that
extreme
view.
position,
Right,
and I just wonder
right.
whether that's also on her agenda. Chris, let me just ask you to back the lens up a little bit, because obviously what we're talking about here is a sort of microcosm of a vastly larger problem. How would Numbers USA characterize what is happening at the border today? Would you agree that it is actually an invasion? And if so, what are the implications of allowing it not only to continue, but with the removal of this Title 42, you know, impediment to more of them coming, a vast surge?
Yeah, yeah. You know, invasion is a pretty powerful word. I I might stop a little short of that, and the reason why I would is just because this is. Again, these are bureaucrats in Washington D.C. The president of the United States of America, certainly the vice president of the United States, who want to allow these people in. So they're encouraging them to come. So it's not like these folks are blowing past Border Patrol. They're getting apprehended, and they're just saying with Title 42, you can no longer send them back by ending Title 42, and then under this asylum process, not only can you not send them back to their home countries, but we're going to take it a step further. We're going to allow them to enter a defensive claim of asylum and even approve it. And what's so important about this asylum rule that they want to put through is that asylum leads to a green card, which leads to U.S. citizenship. That's automatic. So that happens. I mean, there's a small list of crimes that if you create it while you're under that status, you can have that status removed. But that goes beyond just adding to the current population of however many millions of people are living in the country illegally in the shadows. These are people that are now going to be carrying green cards in a year's time and able to get U.S. citizenship and vote in 5+ years. So that's the bigger thing. Now, to go back to that, though, I would
But
say,
I want to ask you to just
sure.
hold that thought for a minute, Chris, because we got to take a very quick break. The challenge that we've got is only some of those people are actually being apprehended and processed, as you
Exactly,
say, but
exactly.
some aren't. And more to the point, there are vastly more on their way. When we come back, I want to ask you about a specific aspect of this that's very worrying to me: the unaccompanied males. We'll talk about that with Chris Chmielenski of Numbers USA right after this.